Hey, how's it going, everyone? So here's the deal. I have a 3-year-old German Shepherd dog named Mikey, and he's a very, very reactive dog against people and especially against dogs. So I'm going to be making a series called Just Wanna Bark, and I want you guys to join me on this journey for maybe 6 months, a year. I'm not sure how long it's going to take for me to fully train my dog to be not reactive against people and other dogs. The first episode is going to be pretty much me showing you guys what my dog's initial conditions are and explaining what kind of dog training methodologies I'll be using and where I'm going to be going to make this happen. As of right now, the situation is, and you can see this on the video, is that he doesn't really pull on the leash. He's pretty much a well-behaved dog when he's in a controlled environment that he's been in before, just as my neighborhood, right? He won't really pull on the leash too much. He'll kind of walk beside you, because that's kind of the training that I've given him for the past 3 years. I've worked on basic obedience with him, like heel, sitting, staying, right, all that stuff. However, doing reactive training, in my opinion, is I think one of the hardest things to do. Training a dog to be not reactive whenever he or she sees a trigger. Um, so that's pretty much the situation right now. I'm gonna show you a video of him seeing a trigger. So it's gonna be like a couple walking, and he's gonna see a dog, and he's just gonna lose his mind, and he's just gonna bark, and and he's pretty much gonna try to go over there. But that kind of reaction is what I want to train him out of. One of the first things that I want to mention is that whenever a dog is in this frenzied state where he just has a tunnel vision and he's just looking at a trigger, the best thing you can do is to just take the leash or take the harness and just run the other way. Legit, just increase the distance between yourself, your dog, and the trigger that he's experiencing. So clearly on the video, I'm not doing that. I'm just standing like a statue, and that's one of the mistakes that I make. And in this series, I'm going to be pointing out a lot of mistakes that I make and what are some of the things that I do to hopefully get better results next time. So this is definitely one of them. I'm not increasing my distance. I'm just having him just stand there, and this is clearly how you not do it. You just take the leash and you go the other way. Just like I mentioned about distance, this type of training, which is the clicker training that I'll be doing, involves a lot of patience. You have to make sure that you don't make your dog go towards the trigger immediately. You have to kind of work him up to it. So, a lot of the times, what happens is whenever you're walking your dog, you'll see somebody on the other street and he'll notice him, just like how you're seeing him in the video. So, what you do is you go ahead and try to take his attention away from that trigger from a maximum distance as you can, right? So right now, I see that he's paying attention to me, so I think that's a very good distance to start at. So you're gonna see me kind of go forward, kind of go a little bit back, making sure he doesn't stay tunnel visioned towards that trigger, which is like somebody on the other side of the street. However, in this video, I don't really use a clicker training because I use that in my falling videos, and you can kind of see the negative sides of him. I kind of have to like tap him on his body to kind of get his attention, or do like a audio cue, be like, "Hey, Mikey, come here," or something. The clicker, what that does is that you only have to click once, and it's a very distinct sound, so the dog knows. And the idea is that you click and the dog focuses on you, so you give him a treat. So instead of him focusing on that trigger, if he sees that trigger, he's gonna have a muscle memory kind of thing to expect a click. And when he hears that click, then he's gonna focus on you and get the treat. However, the problem sometimes that happens is when you do all that, and as soon as you get like close to somebody, he's not reacting. But whenever that person starts talking to you and starts talking to your dog, then your dog reacts. So you have to be mindful that your dog can react like this over a audio cue as well, because the audio cue is kind of encouraging the dog to pay attention to that trigger more. So you have to be very mindful of that as well. Uh, but that's pretty much what the initial stages have been. In this clip, his explosion isn't that bad, so I kind of made the mistake where I got a bit too greedy and I went back in there again, and it just kind of got worse to where I had to increase the distance compared to the last one. So you have to make sure you're not greedy, and if he's giving you that to where he sits down after an outburst, then just go ahead and walk him the other way. Don't try to go in the same direction of that trigger as I did. So definitely a very bad thing to do, and I definitely do improve on that in the following videos. But the training that I'm going to be incorporating more is using a long leash. So what a long leash does is that in this video I only use a very short leash, and that doesn't give him a lot more distance, so it creates a lot of pressure for the dog. And I want to make sure that he's kind of walking around and he's not getting too much pressure, as he's a very anxious dog. So I go ahead and incorporate a 15-foot leash that you can get at PetSmart, and you can just go ahead and buy a clicker as well, because I think a clicker is very useful, as I will point out in the following videos. But the long line, what it does is that you can start at a very large distance, and the dog is not pressured to kind of follow you and be in the same zone as you. Dogs generally, they like to smell around it, they like to sniff, because that's how they become more comfortable. So as you can see here, what you can do is, if you're conditioning your dog to use a clicker, you can always go ahead and start in your house and do clicker training, and then you can move to the front yard like I did here. So again, another mistake that I make here is that I pull my dog back. You typically don't want to do that. You typically want to make sure your dog is reliable at a maximum distance, so you're not having to cause that pressure by pulling on his leash. So it's just going to be something that are going to happen in this series, is where I'm just going to make mistakes and I'm going to add a lot of leash pressure to the dog. But the leash really does give you a barrier to where your dog can kind of roam freely, and if something does happen, you can always pull on the leash so your dog doesn't go and harm himself or somebody else. But that's what this series is going to be about. The last thing that I do want to show is I'm going to be doing like confidence training. Typically, a lot of these dogs who have the same condition as my dog does, they're very anxious, they're very scared. So confidence training really does help them out. And in here, I take them to a local playground and kind of just let him sniff around, just be himself. And if he wants to, he can always go ahead and go on these steps and just kind of, again, get out of his comfort zone. uh, so this is very amazing. You can use like treats to reward him, or maybe encourage him to get up there, but you have to be very safe and you have to make sure he doesn't go on the slide or anything like that. That's why I recommend getting a harness, so you can, if he does seem to go off, you can pull on the harness instead of like pulling on his neck or anything like that. But honestly, I hope you guys really enjoy this series, and if you do, please subscribe, like the videos, put a comment down. Hopefully, this helps somebody who's in the same position as I'm in. And if you have any tips for me, I'm always eager to learn. So go ahead and put them down in the comments below. Thank you.